All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything's connected. What's going on, y'all? We're talking about food. We're talking about food in the chats. That's funny because I'm making some bread right now. I don't know why. Like, it's just a thing that has become a thing for me in the last few years, is that I really like to make my own food as much as possible. I like to cook. I'm not really in a situation where I have a lot of I can't really do a lot of cooking where I'm at, but I'm doing what I can. I'm just reading through the chats here. So right now I'm making some skillet bread because I like to make my own bread, my own tortillas. I make pupusas. I make tacos, taco shells. Anyways, but I really love bread, and I know probably people will tell me that don't eat so much bread, but sorry, I love bread and I'm not going to stop. So I'm unapologetically eating a lot of bread, but I hate going to the store and buying bread like all the time. No need bread. Yeah. I don't know if it's, well, I didn't need it too much, I guess. I just mixed it together. I'm waiting for it to, I don't know if it's going to rise too much. I'm not really sure. But I will cook it after the show. Yeah, I hate going to the store and buying bread. It comes in wrapped in plastic and it's expensive, and same with tortillas, when I know I can just make tortillas and they're going to be way more delicious than anything I would buy. But homemade bread is better for you. That's the other thing, is that when you eat things that are pre-made, they're generally processed. Yeah, I mean, so, if you I should try to shop in places where I'm not buying like things that are overly processed. But still, there's generally preservatives and things that you buy, some type of preservative. I know there's preservatives in there because they last longer than 3 days. And when I make my own bread, it doesn't last longer than 3 days. It's over in 3 days. Like if you don't eat in 3 days, it's over. Same with the tortillas. If you don't eat the tortillas in 3 days, it's pretty much over. All right, so let's get into it. But yeah, I want to like. It also feels kind of powerful to just make your own bread. Like you don't have to. I know you got to go to the store and buy the flour and the yeast and everything else. But it's like I can make bread. I don't have to go to the store to buy bread. I can just make it. Like I got it. Homemade tortillas, yeah. You know they're the jam. I don't know. We're kind of the show's gonna be a little bit loose today. And it's annoying because we're live on X, YouTube, and on Rumble. But man, do they squash me. It is annoying. It's telling me that nobody's watching on X. Does anybody see the stream on X? I don't know. Anybody over there? Not sure. Michael Tracy is streaming on X. There's sometimes I think Michael Tracy is being intentionally stupid. It's helpful for him, right? It's kind of like if you're controversial enough. Oops. You know, you can get people. You can get click. It's kind of like clickbait if you're just out there being controversial. I don't know. I don't know. But it's like Michael Tracy hasn't heard of something called a false flag before, right? Kind of the prevailing wisdom on all of these shooters is that they are generated. They're MK Ultra, and there's in particular cases, in particular shootings, man, there's a lot of evidence. Man, things look real weird. The Las Vegas shooting, for one thing, looks really weird, and people have done very deep dives on the Las Vegas shooting and how strange that has looked. There's lots of the Pulse nightclub shooting that, dare I say, is it the place in Connecticut? Maybe I shouldn't say the name. The place that rhymes with Mandy Schnook. That the prevailing wisdom is that these things are like the Wisconsin shooter that, right? They were like, he had a manifesto and he was, influenced by right-wing media and, whatever. But one of the people that he shot just happened to be the inventor of like a car that runs on water. Like, oh, this guy, one of the random people he shot just happened to be this guy that invented had developed technology about a car that, right? So that, anyways, So this guy is, he's shoots people, and it's yeah, of course it's horrible and all that. It is horrible. But he's writing, let's see the Epstein list and pedos. I want to get rid of them. What is this? What does this serve? What would that messaging serve as a reason to, oh, the people that are talking about the Epstein files are crazy. Like, right? There's always, they're always trying to like, there's always some kind of weird, backstory agenda kind of stuff that's going on. And this guy was, I don't know, all over the place. He had, he was racist and yet liberal, and transgender and yet, I don't know. Maybe he was real and he was just confused. I don't know. Hold on one second. Let me get it. But Michael Tracy is like, look, I know everyone tries to use mass shootings to advance their own pre-existing agendas. So I guess he's admitting that he understands it. Is he saying after the fact? There's a mass shooting, and then everybody gloms onto it. But then he goes further. He says, it's amazing that the Minneapolis shooter called for releasing the Epstein files and wrote "kill pedos" on his gun. So what Tracy has been doing is saying like, oh, these people out here talking about the Epstein files and all the stuff that's going on, like they're bad, they're wrong. He actually was, I think he retweeted like Candace Owens and said like, we got to end these podcasts. Somebody's got to put a stop to these podcasts. Really, Michael Tracy? Because you sound awfully like the people in the past that were like, we got to shut these people up on social media because they're saying a lot. Like Michael Tracy, seriously, you are a journalist and you're literally saying like, oh, people are spreading misinformation on the internet. We got to end these podcasts. Like, it is wild. He did write a lot of stuff. That was his manifesto, right? He didn't have to write a manifesto. He wrote it on his guns. Then he's like, nobody's talking about the fact that he wrote Epstein files and kill pedos on his gun. Like, that's important. Yeah, it is important. Some of it in Russian. I know. It was, anyways. There's too many similarities in every single one of these shooters. They all have like literally the same, the same playbook. And it's like, okay, how often do we have to see this? But he shot up a bunch of kids at a church, but he's writing "kill pedos," so he's for the children, and yet he thinks killing the children is going to make it like none of that makes any sense at all to me. Like, man, I'm really upset about things, and I got to go shoot up a bunch of kids to raise awareness about what. Like maybe if the angle is like I used to be a student, or I was rejected for my homecoming dance or something, and I don't know what still it still doesn't make a lot of sense. Right? The guy who shot 2 Jewish people and said free Palestine afterwards, right? Was that the one in Florida, man? or am I mixing up a couple different ones? Could have been worse. There's just, if you're not immediately skeptical about the stories around these shootings, like, I don't know, you really got a very like cursory take on the news, right? Like, oh my God, it's another school shooting. Oh, we got to ban assault weapons pretty soon. And of course, that's an agenda. That's always in the background. That's always in the background. Got to ban these weapons pretty soon. Okay. The guy makes no sense because he was insane. Well, I mean, and that's what, that's the handiest part of this whole thing. No, he's crazy. And he wrote, show me the Epstein files on his gun. That means the people, he's just like the other crazy people that want to see that. Like, that's what they're trying to, anyways, whatever. It's kind of wild. I'm more covering Michael Tracy's response than I am actually covering the story. I know this because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Anyways, he seems to think it's, nobody's paying attention to this really this big problem that everybody's talking about, the Epstein files, and it's all made up, and he thinks it's the whole thing is a myth. Like, that's the kind of in-depth journalism that Michael Tracy is doing. I'm going to tell you, man, if the entire planet is on the side of the conspiracy theorists when it comes to the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein, when the entire planet doesn't believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, the entire freaking planet, and you are a journalist out there trying to say that, Ghislaine Maxwell told the truth to the, he went that far. Like, I don't know. Obviously, Michael Tracy either has some conflicting financial backers, or I don't know what his problem is, or he is just really that stupid. He's really that dumb. Like, the entire planet is like, nah. Right? Like, a lot of people can be like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, or I don't like what you think about 9/11, or I don't like what you think about whatever. But on the case, when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, literally everybody on the planet is aligned except for freaking Michael Tracy, who thinks that he's some kind of like doing some heroic journalism by trying to make it seem like, no, this isn't even really a story. Like, really, dude? Okay. Okay. It's wild to me. Anyways, I was just like, you don't see the obvious play here? Here's an obvious play. Here's who is this person on Fox News? I don't know. Aaron Cohen, that's right. Sorry.
Specific threat language and then routes it to local law enforcement.
Oh, you don't think that could be an agenda? You don't think that could be part of the reason why all of this is happening?
It's a 24/7 detective. It never sleeps, and it's going to get us in front of these attacks.
We're going to roll out basically AI pre-crime because of this particular attack. Man, I totally believe this story. Because, man, never before have we needed AI pre-crime to be injected into our law enforcement than right now. I mean, there's never been a more important time for this radical change to happen. Man. And he was crazy. He wanted to see the Epstein files. What kind of crazy nut case wants to do, right? While the entire planet is going, Trumpy, Donald Trumpy, where's the Epstein files, bro? Bondi, Cash Patel, somebody, anybody, hello, FBI. You guys are trying to tell us there's no Epstein files? Bullshit. Ain't nobody believing that. Ain't nobody believing that. So it's very convenient to the point of like, oh, really? Okay. I totally believe this story. My God. Michael Tracy, man, turn in your whatever it is, your laminated journalist card immediately. Because you are a dope. Or you're a dupe, or you're a bot.
Would it have picked up on this, do you think?
100%. I wish my program would already be up. We're not launching until next week. I've got a dozen agencies on board, Trace. I just unloaded a major Northeast agency with over 2,700 sworn. This is America's early warning system. Correct. I am now about to launch Gideon, America's
he did have a
first
manifesto.
ever
Whoa,
AI
thank
threat
God, because we always need a manifesto.
Detection platform built specifically for law enforcement. It scrapes the internet 24/7 using an Israeli grade ontology to pull.
Israeli grade. That means it's super good. It's not used in the committing of genocide at all. Super good Israeli grade.
Specific threat language and then routes it to local law enforcement. It's a 24/7 detective. It never sleeps, and it's going to get us in front of these attacks.
Would it have?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I mean, any excuse to roll out more AI, more troops, more guards, more whatever. I wonder if Michael Tracy thinks that there was actually an assassination attempt on Trump last summer. If that was actually his ear bleeding. I wonder what Tracy thinks about that. I don't know. There's just, like, I think it's admirable and actually, necessary for people to pick out like truths that nobody else may, right, to be adversarial and to go out there and go out on a limb and be, go swim against the tide, and like, people need to do that. But then there is also just the mountain of, right, like obvious evidence around things that like stacks up, like what, like 9/11, like way higher. The amount of evidence that something amiss happened that day is way higher. It stacks up just, I mean, several mountaintops higher than the evidence that they tried to push on people about what actually happened or how it actually happened. Like that amount of evidence is about this high, and it's never changed since 2001. It's actually gone, down. The amount of credible evidence that they have about like how it happened and who did what and how it went down. That evidence, if it still exists, is so thin, so paper thin. But if the mountain of evidence, that shows that, there was definitely something going on with Jeffrey Epstein and all kinds of people in power and presidents and islands and you know, girls and kids and, you know, all kinds of stuff. Like, I think that evidence trumps, pardon the pun, trumps just swimming upstream. You know, how about this? How about this one? Speaking of 9/11, ha ha ha. How do we end up here? I told you we were going to kind of go far and wide. It's already halfway through the show, for crying out loud. Here's Tucker Carlson back in the day. Maybe Tucker's evolved, but I kind of doubt it. Didn't he have a 9/11? Did he have an interview with Richard Gage or someone like that recently, or was Richard Gage on Joe Rogan? I don't know if Tucker's views on 9/11 have evolved since this, but this is somebody pointing out that Tucker ran interference for the 9/11 story pretty deeply. Oh, Cynthia McKinney. Nick Fuentes is absolutely correct in that Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are the guardrails beyond which deeper looking thought is not permitted. When I demanded an independent investigation of 9/11, Tucker Carlson led the charge against me. I'm not interested in thinking within the guardrails. In order to understand the way the world is really organized, one must go beyond the guardrails, and that's the conversation I want to have with you here. Beyond the guardrails, beyond Tucker Carlson. You guys still there? Everybody's still here? Y'all just listening? That's fine. Let's listen to some of the things Tucker said around 9/11. It's about to be that time. It's yeah, okay, cool. Awful quiet in the chats.
If there's any evidence that the government was behind 9/11, I believe anything if there's evidence, but there isn't any. So knock it off. That's my view.
The next guest says that hijackers may not have brought down the towers by themselves. Here to explain,
I don't know. Tucker Carlson sounded a lot like Michael Tracy right here.
Explain his controversial theory, Stephen Jones. He's a professor of physics at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. Professor Jones, thanks for coming on.
Sure, thanks, Tucker.
Well, just sum up this, obviously, your theory, just the one sentence that I just explained in the intro, contradicts what we all think we know about how these towers collapsed. Quickly sum up your explanation for what happened.
I've looked at the official reports by FEMA and so on regarding the collapse of these buildings.
Right.
I'd like to look at the collapse of Building 7 in just a minute. It was not even hit by a jet,
okay,
so we should look at that.
The two towers, the explanation has been that the fire inside was so intense that it weakened the structural steel and that each floor collapsed down upon the next in a pancake fashion, and they imploded in on themselves. Is that essentially, I think, what people think?
I sent out a video clip of the collapse of Building 7 because most people haven't actually seen that one, and that's the crux of the argument that I'm presenting.
Okay, sum up very quickly the argument for us. You believe there were explosives in the buildings planted by someone, detonated.
Well, yeah.
Is that correct?
There's two hypotheses here. One is fire and damage caused all three buildings to collapse.
Okay.
The other is that explosives in the buildings may have caused the collapse. And so then we analyze and see which fits the data better. And I've done that in my 25-page paper.
I want to read you a quote from the Deseret Morning News, a paper in Utah from you. I'm quoting now. It is quite plausible that explosives were pre-planted in all three buildings and set off after the two plane crashes, which were actually a diversion tactic. Muslims are probably not to blame for bringing down the World Trade Center buildings after all. That's, I would think, pretty offensive to a lot of people listening. Do you have any evidence for that?
Let's start with the collapse of Building 7. Can you roll the video clip that I sent to you?
Okay, I'm not sure if we can, but to specify, that is World Trade Center building.
Let's try.
Smaller than the other two, was not hit by a plane, of course, yet it collapsed.
Right, it's 47 stories.
Just burned down. I'm sorry.
24 steel columns in the center.
Right.
trusses, asymmetrically supported. Now, I can't see what you're seeing, so
We just
you
we just
rolling
see
that?
no, we just see the building, and just so our viewers know, the explanation that I think is conventional is that there was a large tank of diesel fuel stored in the lower level of that, which caught fire, and the resulting
Right.
fire collapsed the building.
But as we read in the
Large
FEMA
tank of
report, it
diesel
says
fuel
here,
took down an
and I put
entire
this in my paper,
steel
of course,
frame building.
the best hypothesis,
Believe it
which is the
or
only
don't.
one they looked at, fire, has only a low probability of occurrence. Further investigation, analyses are needed to resolve this issue, and I agree with that.
Okay.
But they admit there's only a low probability. And if you look at the collapse, you see what I've studied is the fall time, the symmetry,
There you go.
the fact that it first dips
Bam.
in the middle, that's called
Kind
the
of
kink,
fast, man. A diesel
which is
tank full of diesel
very
did all that.
characteristic, of course,
All right.
of
Took out
controlled
every
demolition.
structural beam in the
Professor, I am
building.
sorry that we are out of time, and I'm not sure that
Whoa.
you've
One
you've
other
fully
thing I want to mention
okay,
about.
if you can hit it, hit us with
Okay,
it quickly.
all right. Okay, here we go.
Time
Molten
medieval.
metal
Whoa.
in the basements of all three buildings.
Right.
And yet all scientists now reasonably agree that the fires were not sufficiently hot to melt the steel. So what is this molten metal? It's a direct evidence for the use of high temperature explosives such as thermite. Thermite produces molten iron
Never in the history of
as an end
steel
product.
buildings has that ever
So
happened.
we do have, it's a very short time, but people
Because
will
of
read the
office
paper,
fires.
then I
It
talk
has
about
never
the
happened
molten
again.
metal,
There's
the
that.
symmetry of the collapse,
It
and the
was so-
weaknesses
that's right.
and inadequacies of the fire
Okay.
hypothesis.
Professor, we're going to have to leave it to our viewers who are interested
I
enough to
think they
follow
just
up
had
to
a
do just
feeling.
that. We appreciate your
Probably
coming
the
on. Even if
BBC.
I don't
They had a gut.
understand your theories,
Oh,
we appreciate you trying to explain them. Thanks.
Okay.
They knew it was close.
Thank you, Tucker.
Thanks.
I also
If there's any evidence that the government was behind 9/11, look, I believe anything if there's evidence, but there isn't any. So knock it off. That's my view.
Ridiculous. So for family members of the victims that are asking questions and want the evidence that's been withheld by the government released, you would say that they're less than adults somehow for wanting that
I would
information?
say that parasites like you make it much worse for them.
ooh, very strong words. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So wild. So absolutely wild. Yep. Somehow the BBC knew it was going. Oh, I was going to say also the things that Larry Silverstein said on TV about it would make you go, "What? What?" He does. Stephen Jones has an interesting history too, by the way, but that is a whole other rabbit hole to get into. Yeah, like Larry Silverstein saying there was such a loss of life. We decided to pull it. He was like, wait, you pulled it? You brought down the building? Kind of what he said. Not kind of. He actually said that on TV. He said we decided to pull it. We decided to pull it. Like, that's all you need is that tape played over and over again in a courtroom, I think, to indicate that he had prior knowledge that it was coming down, that he had something to do with it coming down. Like, how did he get a payout? That's what I want to know. How the heck did that dude get a payout? Because all you have to do is roll that tape, which aired on national TV over and over again. We decided to pull it. You decided to pull it. You decided to pull it. Wait, hold on. Like, literally, how? No, okay. Yeah. Such a loss of life. That's just wild. It is wild. It is wild. You just think about him saying that, and it pretty much dissolves everything him just saying those words on national TV should dissolve in your brain anything you think, about the official story being true and correct. Should make you go, what? No. Oh, say what? I haven't seen the X-Files clip. Where's that? For the audience, haven't seen it, of a lone gunman World Trade Center. No, I haven't. I don't know what you're talking about. Phantomas, what are you talking about? Anyways, but it's coming upon us, so we'll talk about it some more pretty soon. Speaking of a gut feeling, we're jumping around here today. Should I look for the X-Files clip? Excuse me. Is this it? Is this the one you're talking about? That's not it. Oh, well, all these are too long for me to play. I need something real short. The lone gunman predicts 9/11. Is this the one you're talking about? March of 2001.
Let him in before somebody sees him.
Oh,
yeah.
that's it? Okay. Right on. Thank
Regrets on not
Thank
being
you.
dead.
Oh, the day is young.
Byers, you want to clue us in?
We got a plane to catch.
Atlanta National announces her final rainfall for Flight 65 Washington, Boston, all passengers for Atlanta National Flight.
See anyone you recognize?
No, but that doesn't mean they're not around.
Okay. Let's board. Check the cabin for free hydrocarbons. Try and pinpoint that bomb.
This is your plan? I still think we should call in a bomb threat. Let the FBI deal with this.
Said yourself we don't know the full extent of this conspiracy. We can't trust any government official. Our only hope is to get on that plane.
They're boarding.
Then that's 2 problems solved.
Find anything?
The luggage hole's clear if this thing can be trusted. What'd you do, make it with your erector set?
You're absolutely sure that this is the targeted flight?
This flight was chosen primarily for its visibility. It's scheduled to pass over Manhattan on its way to Boston.
You said they intend to bring us down in the middle of New York City? What if there is no bomb?
What do you mean, no bomb?
Oh, that's right.
You
Well,
hack the aircraft's onboard navigation system. We need to know where we're headed.
Okay,
thanks, Bulla, for that. Well, if they really wanted to be snotty about it, they just block the video until I remove this part. The plane is the bomb. Sometimes they'll do revenue sharing, or sometimes they'll just be your video is
Headsets.
blocked worldwide. Blah blah blah.
I'll clone the airphone's carrier. Make them think we're sending a ground air fax. That's when
That's cool. If they block me on YouTube, then this video will be available on X and on Rumble if you want to watch this. Okay.
Twisted Star 69.
I'll just get ready to ride the wave, hippie boy.
Just get me on that plane and I'll get you autopilot access.
How are you going to do that?
Airline telemetry systems use processors similar to those found in CB radios.
I'm in. We got ourselves a convoy.
What's your progress? I've hacked into the flight control system output.
I'm mapping the data now.
Oh, look at oh.
Liars. Your flight's gonna make an unscheduled stop in exactly 22 minutes.
The corner of Liberty and Washington. Lower Manhattan.
World Trade Center. I'm going to crash the plane into the World Trade Center.
I'll tell the flight crew.
Lanley, can you override the flight control system? I'm working on it.
Okay, I think we got it. I don't really want to watch the exciting conclusion of this, but anyways, yeah. Mark Snow Estate, don't strike. Okay. Yeah, we know the exciting conclusion. I always say this when I talk about 9/11. Does anybody know Rebecca Roth or listen to her videos about this? I really like her research. She has like 3 books around this. And I don't think you know, there are several people I think who have done a lot of good research in 9/11, and that, like, I think all of them together form a composite, right? Yeah, it is wild that they predicted it right before, right? It is wild. Some of all fears, yeah, and I just watched that movie a couple months ago. I'd never seen it before. That's interesting. I didn't realize that was right before. Anyways, Rebecca Roth does really good work about possibly what happened to the planes or what happened to the passengers and how they controlled the planes, and how, she kind of dissects a lot of the, there's several theories about what happened, and I think several of them are mostly correct, but like her research is really good about like how, like, kind of some of the more intricate details about like where did the planes go, where did they actually go, because they didn't actually fly into the towers, like they were diverted somewhere else and something was done with the passengers, and she goes into all that, and it's really interesting. She's very good. Yeah, well, there's things like, the planes couldn't have been flying the speed they were flying, said to have been flying into the buildings. There's that. There's the fact that the points go on and on. The fact that the pilots weren't good enough to pull that off. The fact that it's just so many. The fact that you cannot penetrate that building with an aluminum plane, no matter how they were going so fast that they smashed right through no, that's just not, like, you have to not really understand physics to understand how that could not happen. Anyways, there's so many things, that I'm not gonna, I can just point you in the good directions, like Judy Wood, mostly pretty good. What's Ace Baker, mostly pretty good. Have they pulled all his videos down yet from YouTube? I don't know. I don't really watch a lot of 9/11 videos, so I don't know what is out there anymore. But Rebecca Roth is interesting, very interesting work. And also, didn't The Simpsons predict the 9/11 too? Extra bullet, get on it. go watch Loose Change from Jason Burmis. Great freaking movie. Or Loose Change 2. Like those, yeah, there's been work after those movies that have like given a bigger picture about what went on, but like he lays a lot of groundwork for like why the whole story was dumb, period. Yeah, but Loose Change is great. Loose Change just makes you go like, well, there's no way I can believe this story anymore. If it doesn't, I don't know how you watch that movie and don't go like, oh yeah, no, that makes any sense at all. And as NIST stated that UA-175 was traveling at 590 miles per hour at sea level. That is just not possible. The plane would be in pieces at going that speed at sea level. It would be in pieces. So not possible. That part of the story completely false. If you understand physics, you understand that you can't. That's just not. They just made stuff up that was just so bizarre, and that anybody who believes that story is intentionally not understanding physics in order to believe that story. And so you cannot trust that person, because that person is either stupid or paid, period. End of story, end of explanation. But whatever. But watch Loose Change. Loose Change, very good, very good, very good place to start. Go listen to Rebecca Roth. She's really interesting. Go listen to, Judy Wood is, for some people a little more out there, but she has good questions. She asks good questions. Okay. What else? Let's look at this. Obsolete Optics sent me this about precognition and the fact that the CIA understands completely about, people's psychic abilities, that psychic abilities are real. This is, I've been seeing a lot about this. It was a missile that didn't miss. Yeah. Real quickly, we're going to steer away from 9/11, but we'll come back to it. Your consciousness can jump through time. Many gut feelings, which is what the BBC had about Building 7 that day. Many gut feelings are memories from the future, scientists say. Even the CIA has publicly released data on the psychic phenomenon. Yeah, well, and this is in Popular Mechanics. I've been seeing a lot of people discussing quantum mechanics and, remote viewing, understanding that humans have the ability to shift consciousness or, travel through time consciously. Yes, this is a good one. Ace Baker, that's a good one. The magical surviving passport. Yep. That's one. What's the joke? If the Twin Towers were made out of whatever material the passport was made out of, they'd still be standing. A passport magically floated down out of the smoke and the ash out of the airplane. And we knew it was this guy who did it. Anyways, yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about consciousness being the beginning of reality, not the perception, but the creator of reality. It's in lines of like the manifestation. You manifest everything around you. You manifest, your reality is a projection from you, not a, I don't know. Remote viewing is very interesting. Do you guys know who Cliff High is? I've talked about Cliff High before. Cliff High is an interesting dude. And he had a program that was something like remote viewing, but like on the internet with language that I would even say that he had like a pre-AI, like, I don't know if I could relate it to like a language model, but he created a program of like spiders that would like go gather language from the internet, and it would sift the language into some kind of story about the future, because the idea is that his spiders would gather that we were all collectively psychic, and so that gathering language on the internet could somehow give you an idea of what was going to happen in the future. And he would put out these reports of like what his program found, and it was very crazy, like the things that it predicted. And he was doing this in the 90s into the early 2000s. What were literal spiders, like I don't know language, I don't know what it was, but it does sound like on some level that's the part that kind of always confused me, was how did he interpret this language, right? Because he had these spiders or crawlers or bots or whatever that was going out and collecting data from all these websites all over the world, and he did it in different countries. He didn't just do English, he did like other languages too, and he was collecting the data. But it was, to me, what is the thing he used to sift the language and distill it into, like, that's the one that always is like, what? Okay. I think he was looking for keywords, phrases, I don't know what. He can explain it better than me, but he was doing this a long time ago. Yeah, so there's I see a lot of people talking about these days about remote viewing, which the CIA totally understands, and I think has put out publicly that it's real, it's a thing, it's a, they haven't really divulged what they're doing with it. Yeah, you would think, Poppy, you'd need a big data bank or some kind of like, and it's always made me, Cliff High is a very interesting dude, but I've always wondered, like, and he did work in the defense industry, like, and he was an early computer guy, and so I always wondered if he was like, were you an agent of some kind? I don't know. Yeah, like, who knows what they're doing with that initial, like, remember, back in the 70s and the 80s, they studied psychic abilities and the ability to manipulate space and time and matter, and right, like bend spoons with your mind and all that kind of stuff, right? Like they did a lot of study of that. And then there wasn't really any, they did publish their findings, but it wasn't like a big splash, like, hey, everybody's psychic, and this is great. No, it just kind of, they did the study, and then they were like, oh yeah, this is totally real, and then it kind of faded away. So what are they doing with all of that knowledge? I wonder. There is no spoon. There's only particles. There's only yeah. Who was it? There was another what's the book? It's not Jonathan Livingston Seagull, but it's The Reluctant Messiah. You guys know that book? What's his name? Richard Bach. And in that, he talks a little bit about being able to, that if you just realize that matter was just made up of, electrons, and right. that you can manipulate matter if you understood that it wasn't really there. The things that were, the tables and chairs and things that you touched, and they weren't really solid. There's just everything is made up of the same things, right? So you can manipulate that if you're whatever, dude. A sitcom. It's a rom-com set in the fields of the Midwest. The universe dreams the garden and a way to walk within it. Yeah. I don't, like I am super interested in that stuff for sure. I think it's incredibly interesting. But I also feel like there's an outside reality or truth, right? They're like, you can bend reality on to a certain degree, but then there's there is kind of like a point at which reality will bend you. So it's, in my mind, it's good to be aware of both, right? Like your power of, conscious manipulation in relation to actual like physical properties, which a lot of people would argue like these things don't exist, but I can tell you that if you walk off a cliff that you're going to experience gravity, right? I can tell you if you lay out in the sun for a few hours, with minimal clothing on, you're going to get a sunburn, right? Like these are, basic physical processes, right? That maybe you might, if you were a high level master, I don't know if you're going to jump off a cliff and float in the other direction, but like if you're a high level master, you might be able to manipulate certain things about, physics, but physics is freaking real. And like, you don't want to play too much with physics. You want to kind of respect physics. Anyways, while you're playing with your own, the effect of your consciousness on other things, right? It's good to respect physics. We might be living in someone else's quantum realm, like we are a microscope compared to the greater universe. Sure. Yeah. Always good to remember, right? That our reality could just be, What's also interesting, like I heard somebody talking the other day about kids can see certain things that we learn to stop seeing when we get older, right? Like, monsters, things that aren't there, imaginary friends, stuff, right? Like things that, but it makes you think, like back in the day, right? In the hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago, we had, all these stories of creatures and, witches and spirits and right, there's the, all these old myths about Cthulhu and skinwalkers and right, things that we now would put in a box and go like that, those things can't exist, they're not real, like those are all figments of people's imagination. But maybe people are just seeing things, they're just seeing into another dimension or into another reality that we are unable to see into now because everything is so digital and linear and right. Like we've done away with this whole, way of like thinking that people, several hundred years ago would probably be like, oh no, that's totally like, it's completely real. And, a lot of people put a lot of faith in that stuff today, right? Like they still see entities and beings and talk to people on the other side. And, like if you believe in it, it becomes real. Gravity is the force holding the nucleus together, not any invented strong force. Oh, there's one more thing. I was listening to somebody who was like a hypnotist healer, and he was talking about how we carry trauma through generations, like literally, some people talk about generational trauma, and it's a phrase that's used a lot in Black culture or in other cultures that have experienced like colonialism, the wrong end of colonialism, right? Like you would become a slave, or you had your lands taken, or you were given smallpox blankets, or right, like people use generational trauma healing but generational trauma, everybody has generational trauma. Everybody has it. And so this guy was talking about the fact that we are sometimes suffering things in this life that our parents, grandparents, great grandparents suffered, and it has passed down through our DNA to us to continue suffering until we go back and I don't know how you fix it, but it's interesting. Anyways, interesting stuff. Brother Society previously. Electric universe theory is wild, like space and dark matter is really plasma, and lightning bolts created the Grand Canyon and big ass ditch on Mars. Okay. I'm going to have to look into that, the electric universe theory. I don't know anything about it, honestly. I mean, it's interesting. Alternative ideas about like how the universe is formed. Absolutely, fascinating. Or historical happenings, right? Like I'm completely open to the idea that like, obviously we know that history is, written by the winners, right? Or the people that control the information about that history, right? So I'm completely open to alternate ideas about historical timelines and like what really happened at certain times, because our society, civilization, culture, whatever is really quite young, and what we've developed just in the last like 100 years, 200 years is very, very, very short in the span of time. So, what we can really know, or what we prove to know about things that happened in the past, I feel like on some levels it's hubris. We may have to use nuclear force. Rockets can't stop it. Is that the Jimi Hendrix album? Huh. Okay. Well, wow. Okay. Well, we've been talking about all kinds of stuff today. Oh, that's Frank Zappa. Okay. Exactly. Extra bullet. Instead of taking out Hitler, you should do something about Edward Bernays. I was just thinking about the evil effect that person has had on our society. It's not just Bernays. Bernays is the name and the face on, I think, an ideology. The ideology is manipulating science to manipulate people. And that, sure, he was a progenitor of that, or they borrowed from Bernays. Yeah. So that, it's, and some people might call it eugenics, I guess, at some level. But even beyond eugenics, it's just that, there are a lot of ways and means to manipulate people, and they're just infinite right now. And that's the scariest part right now, is that we are infinitely being influenced and shaped in ways that we have no idea what they're cooking us with right now. Like, no idea. All right, guys, that does it for me. I'm going to wrap it up. I did kind of want to it's fun to just shoot the shit once in a while and talk about like stranger things. But I will be back tomorrow being Friday, at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. You're soaking in it. That's right. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for joining in, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being down to talk about the weirdness. But we'll get back at it tomorrow. Until the next time, beware the bear.